Hello, I'm Jennifer Broniste, and this is my mentor.
I'm Sarah McFate.
We're going to talk about my second elementary lesson for Module 3.
All right, so this lesson, you, like your other lessons, did a great job. You brought in, you recapped what you had talked about previously, which you talked about how y'all have discussed setting and characters in fiction, and how this lesson was about story mapping and how you're going to bring it all together. Talk about main events and how story mapping and sequence, it's going to bring in all these different aspects together in a story. So you used the book Allie's Discovery, projected it on the smartboard, and you read it out loud to the students. And it was a story about a little girl that moved, and she met an older lady, and just how the old lady talked about another little girl that had moved before that was bored, and how she had a flower garden, and had tea parties and wrote poetry. And so you used a graphic organizer to talk about main characters and settings, so things that you have previously talked about. And you modeled on the smart board with that organizer of how to organize your thoughts in the different parts of the story. And as a group, you modeled how to write down the first thing that happened in the story. Allie moved. The second thing, she met this old lady. And so you showed them how to sequence out their thinking and how to map out a story. Um, and then after that, you had some guided practice where you had partners finish out that story. So you read the book to them, you modeled, you had them finish it as partners, which I think is great for some students who need that extra support. Then you had students report out what they had finished to the whole class. And then you had a different book to provide individual practice. So you used that book on the smartboard, projected it, and you had students work individually to fill out a story map. And I think that's awesome that you use the same story map, the same graphic organizer. And so that way they just had practice on it. They just had you model it. And during this time, you were able to walk around and provide individual feedback and help. And that was what they turned in for their assessment. And at the end, you talked about the next thing you were going to talk about the next day is visualization for fiction. So you kind of gave them a preview. And I love how you start off a lesson with a recap and you end with a preview so students can prepare for what they're going to learn, but also connect it to what they had previously learned.
Right.
So, how did you think the lesson went?
I think it went pretty well. I was a little concerned with Allie's Discovery maybe being a little too high for them, but I wanted to use that because it's right below most of their reading levels. It's a fourth grade text, so it's just right below. And I wanted to use that one where we all work together, and then I used the lower level one for the second story, which was actually a third grade text. So it was well below, and I wanted them to be able to really take that text and go in depth with it and be able to really understand it, even though I was reading it aloud to them.
I thought that was a good choice because if it's a new concept to them and it can be a very difficult concept for struggling readers, it's better for them to master the concept using the text that they are very comfortable with first before you introduce more complex texts. One area that I think maybe could have maybe used a little more help was the rephrasing and the support. I think that story mapping is a very difficult concept for a lot of students in general, especially for students who require special ed services, because it's just a difficult concept. And I think you did a great job modeling, maybe rephrasing some things and putting it on a level that they can understand. Might have been more beneficial for them. But overall, I thought it was great. I thought the students were engaged. The technology was great. I think they understood the concept, but applying it was just a challenge for them. But
it may be a little more work, like individually, and because I think there were a couple who really had it down, but then there were a couple who really just didn't. So we may need to go back and rework that tomorrow.
And that's a good thing where partner work comes into. You can choose the partners, the students that really understand. It also helps them to teach other students.
Right.
It helps them with their learning, but also
True.
sometimes peer mentoring is a very good accommodation for
Yeah.
students.
Well, maybe we could do that then. Maybe we could, have them partner with one who's really understood it and one who didn't. So,
Yep. I think that sounds great, and I thought the lesson was great.
I don't know.
All right.
Anything else?
That's all.
I don't know. Thank you.